I'd like to bring some superheroes to the stage. I'll start by one of my favorite rappers in the entire world. Put your hands together for Styles P, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Styles P. He could do more push-ups than any 21-year-old in here. Yeah, you can sit right there, brother. Also, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Shaka Zulu, my brother from another mother. I call him the Miracle Baby. Literally. Have some pictures to put up on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, continue those claps for Dr. Lance Shipman Young. Got the fly dashiki on. Welcome to the party. I'm gonna take that down there. How y'all doing, brothers?
Great.
It's good to see y'all, man.
You as well, brother.
And I just want to say to Shaka in particular, we started our madness here on this campus, even though we didn't go here.
Yeah.
Right?
CAU.
You know, the Atlanta University Center, when that parking lot wasn't, I'm sorry, those buildings were a parking lot right in front of Spelman. We used to send buses to pick people up and shuttle them to parties.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were reminiscing backstage. I just want you to be a part of the conversation. All right, this panel is about enduring legacy of intergenerational wellness. And I know all these brothers' journeys, and I'm gonna start with you, Styles P. I think we're gonna start with the physical side of it. We were literally just backstage, and we were saying today it seems like people are either strong or not, right? And you've been intentional about adding the health is wealth mantra to your movement. Talk to us about that a little bit.
I think that's very important for where most of us come from, especially in this day and age, especially hearing the whole panel, what you guys were talking about, what's happening with the food, prevention. Basically, if you don't take care of yourself, no one else is. Right. And if you have a family, you have loved ones, you have peers, you have siblings, you have children, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, the best you could do is be the best you can be, which is not an easy thing to do. You may have ups and downs, but I believe if you steadfast on doing that, that we could grow as a community, as each of us, like say if I say, hey, Kenny, I feel great, this is what I did, here's how I feel great. Same with you, you work out. Like I'm inspired by your page sometimes. I look, say if I did slack for the week, see you on your 1-2, that puts me back on my 1-2. So now if we have a community of people being responsible for themselves,
Facts.
That leads to a healthier community. So that's where my intention comes in. We're going, all right, let me get up and do. And people see you get up and do it, at least they believe what you say when you say, hey, it works.
Sometimes I want the internet to go away. Social media to go away. But I do love it for that because it's, you know, it reminds us of the things we need to do. And Dr. Lance Shipman, you know, there's data that shows us about financial stress and long-term, you know, health outcomes. But I think it's, you know, it's about being intentional and attacking them both accordingly. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that's true. There's certainly a contribution that healthy finances has in terms of people being able to have healthy and well lives. But let me take this from an intergenerational perspective in answering this question, right? Because I want to think about the landscape that my grandparents were in when they, you know, migrated up to New Jersey from Georgia, from North Carolina, and for them, there was no real concept of wellness. Everything was about survival, right? They were trying to get away from the racism, the abject poverty that was in the South, and really just be able to survive, to make a living for themselves. For them, that was the contribution that they would make for their children. And then for their children, they were the ones who were able to kind of break through with the civil rights era, beneficiaries of the Black Power movement, et cetera. And they were the ones that were able to actually go and realize the dream that their parents had. But for them, the focus was only on education and not so much on cultivating the entire self, right? It was really just about getting a good job, getting an education, what have you. But the thought about, am I actually taking care of myself? That was not something that was relevant to them. So that's what they paid forward to us, to give us the opportunity, my sister and I, you know, who grew up in the 90s, listening to De La Soul, listening to Styles, listening to
Great plug.
To give us the opportunity to actually use that education and make it practical, right? To give us the room to actually learn what we needed to do to really take care of ourselves, mentally, physically, what have you. And now, my task for my children, my 3 children, is to make sure that they have used that education and to develop really good habits, right? But in order for all of that to happen, there is that financial piece of it. You can't think about any of the rest of this stuff unless you are, to some extent, financially well. And that's the difference between the way that we live right now versus the way that my grandparents had to live.
I love that. And I was having a conversation earlier, and Shaka, I want to bring this to you. And I was asking a young man behind stage, Zion, and we were talking about streaming, and fame led, you know what I'm saying, the conversation and why people were streaming. Like, you can meet this amount of people and you can do X, Y, and Z. And you've really built your life. You were intentional from when we were throwing parties at the warehouse to managing Ludacris to becoming an entrepreneur, real estate mogul, all the things. You know, talk about that journey a little bit, because I think, you know, money is one thing, but I think your social currency, and this is something you are very wealthy in, speaks more in volume at times.
I mean, I guess a short answer would be the community and the family that I was raised in, you know, raised by. The community I was with, like you said, Pan-Africanist family, revolutionary family. And I'm going to answer the question, I guess, in a roundabout way. I think wrapping up what we're talking about, which is health, financial, spiritual, physical, all of the things, is rooted in the idea of just really wanting to be free, right? You only want to do
general.
Right, you just want to do what you want to do. You want to eat what you want to eat, when you want to eat it, right? I look at my credit card bill, I got 30 Uber Eats. I don't even have an app, and I realize it's my daughter, right? And I just trying to understand.
Damn kids.
Right? I sent you money, you could cook. She had to take cooking classes, but she just wants to do it in her time. So it's the idea of freedom. And I felt like I was an obedient child. I'm pretty sure I did some things that weren't obedient, but I listened. And my mom was, you know, rooted in health and medical, and she just would just over-communicate why she did things and why she fed us and ate certain ways. So that became a part of my total indoctrination. I mean, Corey was talking last night about engagement. When you go into like certain homes, people are engaging and talking, right? If you ever grew up and, you know, you had the old aunts and uncles that were loud and drunk, but they were just saying a lot of things, you just got to hear and see things. So being a sponge in that space also allowed me to be focused on, as I moved out of the house and wanted to be, you know, rebellious and be myself, come to college. My mom lived in the West End, but I basically stayed on campus. I was either staying in Brawley at the courts or whatever girl I was dating at the time. I just didn't want to go home. I was still.
They don't need to know all that.
Oh, my bad. but all of the things were centered in, I needed my own community, and even in that, I wanted to be something different in the sense that I knew I didn't want to disappoint my parents. So I wanted to be as close to them, and I just carried it with me. It was not a thing that we all don't have, or some of us don't have necessarily revolutionary parents, but we have access to people that can give us things to carry out into the world. And so the main point about it is even when we're trying to be free, when we're trying to rebel or trying to be different or trying to get away what we consider our root and our foundation, you have to have that voice in the back of your head. Like one of my main mantras is that freedom without discipline is a ticking time bomb, right? I mean, something's gonna happen no matter what. Yes, you have all the access on the phone and social media and all the things, but if you don't have a discipline to unplug, get off of it, get back on the diet, like, yeah, we've all eaten out of our diet, you know what I'm saying? Or the older you get, you realize, wait a minute, I can't eat the things I used to eat when I was younger, so now I gotta actually be disciplined. You know, you do always on social media, I see you and you move. So I know that you're disciplined with your training and things, and the same thing with styles. So these are the types of things that are grabbed in me, and then when I look for that in other people, then you start to build community. So social currency is within all the things that we are, and then we start to just communicate a little bit more. Now, as older men, we're talking more about health.
Which is very important.
We just used to look at each other and be like, oh, okay, you know, we're going to be all right.
Facts. No, and it's very important. That's why I loved when Corey reached out about this panel in particular, too, because we're dealing with 3 things that are really crucial. You know, it's our wellness when it comes to physical, you know, emotional, and financial. And I want to stay on the financial topic with you, Styles, because, you know, you come into this game, you can get some money, so you sign whatever to get the money. Then you figure out, okay, cool, I don't want to be on Bad Boy no more. I want to be on Rough Riders. And you make a financial move. You know, you go from that to, more independence, and D Block is forming, all these things are formed. But I want you to speak to the growth in that, because you didn't start out hella financially stable, right?
No.
Or even knowing what to do with your finances.
No, not at all. I'm 51, so as you grow, you learn.
Okay, look at the skin.
Yeah, facts. I'm 51, so as you grow, you learn. But I've been fortunate enough to have. This is where I say it's going to sound weird, but this is where what you put in your body is very, very important. I believe from eating better and drinking better put me in a better place.
We don't play the pause game in the South, so you're good.
I don't. You know, I don't play the pause game. I'm the last guy who ever plays that.
I thought you set it up by saying this might sound weird.
No.
Yeah.
I'm talking about from eating and drinking changes your energy. You feel better about yourself. When you feel better about yourself, you align with the universe more. So now the things that I want to do that my mind wasn't open to do prior to, as I feel good about myself, now I'm chasing the things I want to do. I do things, sometimes when people ask me what I do, I just be like, I'm a hustler, because that's where I come from.
That's how you feel.
As an entrepreneur, I feel even weird saying that sometimes, because I literally do things I love. And I think when
you're a poet.
Yeah, when you're in tune and you feel better about yourself, like you see, I immediately look backstage. We didn't set up the conversation. Our conversation naturally flowed as black men who feel good about each other to be concerned about our state of union, to be concerned about our peers, what's going on ourselves, check on each other. So I think when you feel better and you feel good, the universe opens up for you because you're able to deal with people at a different frequency. And I think a lot of us don't keep in mind that everything's energy, even the food you put in your body. Now, although I'm plant-based, I am not telling you to run out and be plant-based. I am not God. That is not my decision. But I do say be mindful about what you put in your body, because it's going to affect how you are when you're in a room. Right. So that business now, you feeling lighter and brighter and open. When I speak to somebody with ideas, I see Shaka. Today is family, but he know next time I'm going to see him, he knows I'm going to pick his brain. I'm going to ask him, what's up? I'm going to tell him I admire I feel good enough to tell him, my bro, I admire what you've done. I see what you do. And I think once you feel that kind of way about yourself, things just open up and people feel better about dealing with you in all actuality.
I would amend that by saying that you are what you focus on, right? And to his point, when you talk about his path, when we were young, we were focused on access and getting it. And for the young kids and the people we call it team no sleep. We grind. We don't sleep. But we don't realize that sleep is the most necessary thing, right? And then when we get older, you're like, well, I don't need to be out as much. I need to be doing this. So you are what you focus on. So if we can infect the mind to be a little bit more focused on health earlier, then we'll age gracefully. Like one of the examples I have, me, BJ, and when Clay, one of our good friends who passed away. I went through something 3 years ago, and I went through a whole process. And because I had to focus on my health, when Clay went through something, it was shortly after me, and people reached out to our team when he went into the hospital. He was in the same hospital as I was. And they just said they weren't treating him right. But because of my situation and patient and people advocated for me and my team surrounded me.
And your social currency.
Your social currency and all of the things, I had a different treatment. So I was like, yo, that guy, I said, call this doctor, this nurse, these are the people that took care of me at Grady. And when they called those people, because we told them to call, they started treating them a little bit differently. But me and BJ was talking on the phone. We was like, man, if I needed tickets to a concert, I can call 2 people and I'd be front row. But if I need a doctor or I need to skip a list on for cancer treatment, I don't know 100 people.
Right.
Right.
And I was saying that to Corey Smith as well, because, he was silent about his situation.
Of
Clark
course.
Kent was also silent.
Yes.
Right. And we see the difference in detection early.
Yes.
And I want to come down the line to you, Dr. Young, because I think there's a myth that financial stress is just a part of life and you just got to deal with it. Like there's some antidotes that you would give or some remedies to that notion?
I don't know that I would call it a myth. I mean, I think at some point, just like every other phase of life, there are going to be stressors that you have to learn how to deal with. There'll be financial stressors. There'll be stressors in your work life. There'll be physical stressors. So the cases where you're dealing with disease unexpectedly. All of those things kind of pop up. But the question is, how do you actually deal with it? How do you deal with it? Because they're going to show up in every phase of your life. And I firmly believe that knowledge is the key, right? As you all were talking about diet and exercise and getting enough sleep, what have you, the main key is to make sure that people know how to take care of themselves, right? I teach a men's health course here at Morehouse. So, 18, 19-year-olds, freshmen primarily here at the college. And as much as I'm trying to educate them, because it is a college class, more importantly, I say to them just about every day that I intend for this to be practical in your lives, right? So that you guys know how to take care of yourselves. I don't care about the grade that you earn. I want you to know how to take care of yourselves in every domain. When it comes to sexual health, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to your mental health, I need for you to be okay when you leave here. But I'm doing this not just for you, but I'm educating you so that you guys can be ambassadors, stewards of this information outside of this college community. Because you all were privileged enough to actually come and occupy these seats, but there's a whole community out there that's waiting for you to give them tips on how to be better in their lives, right? And it doesn't mean that, we're trying to train them to go out and preach to everybody, but a good example goes a very, very long way. If we can teach them how to model good health, to model wellness, then that goes a long way because people notice. Like, man, that guy, he's really in good shape where he takes care of himself. He never seems like he's stressed, even though he's dealing with stressors.
Yeah.
But, once you have the tools and you demonstrate that for other people, it's infectious.
No, I love that. And I think there's an emotional balance to it. I was at Crown Forum today, and I had mentioned that seeing those black young men in that space and then post the conversation, seeing Paz and Maceo get bombarded with stories about their parents, them loving the music, right? Like, the one girl said, I love your music. It speaks to me in a way. My parents played this in the house. That's an emotional connection. They came with the SB Dunks. You know what I'm saying? They had the covers. And, there's an emotional intelligence when I speak at these HBCUs that is just not in the rest of the world. And I want to run down the line because, we know what the Locks is. We know the music. We know the spirit of it. And now that you're older and your kids are older and all the things, I see how you're redirecting your energy. You know what I mean? You with the wellness movement and speaking more, actually. Jada with the podcast with Joe now. And speaking truth to power is a big thing, but I think it's all an emotional connection. Can you speak to that and how, you're being, because you just mentioned a minute ago, too, about being more vulnerable, like us just kicking it backstage, started opening up a door for so much more, and I think we could do that with these kids in another way.
The kids want to listen. It's just the kids actually want to listen, but we have to listen to as parents and elders. That's the one thing. And I think that our emotional connection is going to come from when someone wants to do better with you. There are kids, there's a bunch of young kids in my hood, they be like, well, P, if you did that and you could go that route, even opening the juice bar, I never thought we would get to the point of having 5 locations. It was something that—
A round of applause for that. Yes.
It was something that we said, all right, I personally said, all right, my attitude's shitty. I'm a professional rapper. I'm still doing things to risk my freedom. Something is off with me. I'm chemically imbalanced. Something is way off. My attitude's shitty. I'm overweight. My temper's bad. I got eczema. I got sinusitis. I got postnasal drip. I have to do something. So seeing how just eating better and drinking better helped me, gave me an emotional connection for myself to say, okay, I could heal. I could do better. The physical things, the losing weight, the eczema, sinusitis were really great for me to get that under control. But to have a shitty temper and a bad attitude and to get that under control, to be able to somewhat check my ego and pride and not operate off of that, made me have an emotional connection to say, okay, I want to grow. I want to mature. I don't have a problem with saying, I get into shit, but I don't want to be in that shit. Yeah. I
want to be better.
I want to be better. And I think we all want to be better. And I think definitely the kids want to be better. They just need examples to know that it's okay. This should be anything we do as a community, especially when you got De La Soul and Killer Mike and Banner and you and Shaka Zulu and all the people here, it should be flooded from room to back every incident because we're talking about a health here. So the emotional connection comes with understanding that, as Doc said, you have to be an ambassador. Everybody right here, it's your job to now be a messenger. No one, we're all on the same level to go, all right, what are we in it for? We're in it to, one, feel better for ourselves, for sure. That's 1,000%. But then your family comes immediately after that. And then that should be your community. So if we don't look at it like, okay, we're here today, here's what we're talking about, here's what's going on. If we was talking about sneakers, celebrities, Epstein files, some bullshit, this should be packed. If we was talking gossip, some crazy things, everything's always packed, and people want to run and volunteer and be in it. But when it comes to spreading a message of wellness, you have to have that emotional connection and know it's not a race, it's a journey, and you have to be invested in it, and you want to see your people do better, and then it becomes natural because now that's what we naturally do.
100%.
These are our natural conversations when we see each other. That's where that energy is. So I think it's important for all of us to say, especially if you have a background like me, to go, hey, I have to mature, I have to grow.
You have to reset the table.
Something.
Yeah, you have to reset the
have
table.
to.
And I love that. Round of applause for that. I want to take this time, Shaka. I'm going to come to you, Dr. Young. I'm going to come to you. He kind of gave his marching orders for everyone to go out and spread the word. I would love you to do the same in your way, and if you want to expound on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, just a little bit added to that. We should understand the difference between emotional connection and manipulation of emotions. And, we're being marketed to. They're creating problems to sell us answers, and they're giving us shortcuts, which goes back to my freedom without discipline. If you believe you can eat whatever you eat and then take a pill or take a shot and it fixes it, you're never going to have any discipline. You know what I'm saying? And so understand your analytical brain has to really be, it's a science project. When you drink Hennessy, mix it with Patron, eat fried chicken at 3 a.m. in the morning, smoke hookah, and if you don't wake up the next morning and just pay attention to your body to see what you did to it, you are just going to keep doing it over and over and over again. So we have to understand, and we've all done it. Whether we eating Little Debbie's, whatever it is, the hot donuts, whatever it is, we've done. Our bodies a disservice, and then the piece that we have to really loop around to is the reason why I said is you are what you focus on. Is as you get older, you focus on the things that matter to you. Aging
right, because it's almost too late.
Yeah, aging gracefully, getting older but being functional. I got a 9-year-old son that likes to run across the room and jump on me. If I can't catch him, you know what I'm saying? So I got to be doing my push-ups. I got to be functional. Right. And so you got to pay attention to that. And then give it one last piece is for those who are in the mindset of being futuristic about this, let's get ahead of it. There's a word that they use, especially within the black community, called predisposition. We're predisposed for all these things. Well, I also believe that if it took years to get predisposed, it came through generations of bad eating, slavery, all of the things, or whatever. I actually believe you can reverse those things. So, as you get into eating healthier and what have you, the same way women prepare for pregnancy, men at a certain age have to clean their bodies out and prepare for when you start, because you're passing things down just by, what I'm saying, having children and all of that. And then finally, investment into this world. As we look at the opportunities that are going on in this world in and around health, not only just owning juice bars, but actually getting into the actual medicine or healthy eating, whatever it is, the guidelines that are a little bit louder. We just have to be a little bit louder about these things because, like I said, we walk around, we think we're fine, we look at each other, there's a lot of silent suffering. We've had a lot of friends that have suffered silently, and it's more ego than anything, but, it's just a weird space. I don't know what women do and how. I think women communicate a little bit more than men.
Yeah, they're smarter than us.
Right? But we just need to make sure that
couldn't do it without you.
We're doing that, and then as we come with answers, we invest in those answers. That's why you'll come up with a company called Honey Pot, right? Organic products, because we found out that Johnson & Johnson's was giving people cancer, and y'all been putting it on your body
for generations.
40 years, for generations. So these are the type of things that we need to be paying attention to as we lose people and as we get older and we say, well, you know what, this wasn't right. Let me change that for at least who's coming behind me.
Appreciate that, Shaka. Make some noise for Shaka Zulu, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Young, Any final remarks?
Yeah, so if you all will allow me, I want to take it to school for about 60 seconds. I'm going to dig into my public health bag a little bit and talk about healthy eating and like how you actually implement it. So I think I'll use that as an example to talk about like a bigger theme. So in order for anyone to make changes to a habit, a health habit, it really relies on three things. So the frequency with which they have to make that decision. Like, so with healthy eating, how often, like 3 times a day, do I need to choose the right things to eat? Frequency matters. The second is complexity. Like, how difficult is it to actually do this task? Do I even know what healthy eating looks like? Right? Because somebody tells me to eat a salad and it's like loaded up with a whole bunch of salad dressing and cheese, what have you. Is that actually healthy? The complexity of it is just knowing proper nutrition. And then the third part is volitionality. And that sounds like, this $1 million word, but it's really just how motivated are you to actually make this change? And I tell you, motivation is fleeting. If you got a vacation coming up and you need to have a beach body, what have you, yeah, you can be motivated for a couple of weeks, but that typically is going to taper off.
Definitely.
And that needs to translate into something that's a lot more meaningful if that health habit is going to stick. So that's where I want to try to close this out. And I hope everyone is able to take this with them. A couple of mantras that earlier in my life I had to pick up, and they really made all the difference in the world in terms of me having a sound mind and a sound body. The first is it's never going to be a
Oh, you in shape, player.
Say it again?
I see you over there, player.
I'm trying.
I'm going to wear something less baggy next time. Sorry.
That's all right. So the first and the most important for me is that I had to tell myself it's never going to be a chore for me to take care of myself. Like, that's a privilege
That's right.
that I have in order to be able to do that, right? And I'm never going to pretend like it's not a privilege. I'm in a position. I have the knowledge. I've got, resources. I have access to healthy food. Because I have that privilege, I am never going to take advantage. I'm never going to take it for granted, right? So those two things have helped me tremendously in terms of making sure that the health habits that I wanted to change, because I ate poorly as a kid. I had no idea what healthy eating looked like until I was an adult in graduate school. But once I got to that point, I was a junk food addict already, right? It's hard to make those changes. But once you realize that, like, look, this is something that I need to be able to do because I know that cancer and congestive heart failure and all these things run in my family. I know that my parents died within 5 years of each other from things that were preventable. So with that in mind, I got to think about what do I want for myself in the long haul. Right. If I'm going to be here for the long haul and see my kids have kids, what have you, that means I've really got to adopt some changes in my life. And it's going to be difficult,
ASAP.
but it's never going to be a chore for me to take care of myself.
I love that. Round of applause for Dr. Young. Never let your expectations exceed your effort. On behalf of Dr. Young, Shaka Zulu Styles P, I'm Kenny Burns. We wish you good health. Peace.